no, you know what? If a book is making me this annoyed, it's clearly a sign that I just shouldn't be reading it. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten, and we're of course at the start of another weekly vlog, and I've started 2 books, one of which is a vampire non-fiction question mark book. It's a folklore based book. An occultist that is coming up with arguments to prove that vampires are real, or at least that they cannot be disproved. I'm very intrigued. I think it's going to be a really interesting read. I don't know how much I'm actually going to get from this, but so far I've read the first 2 chapters, so I'm now up to chapter 3, page 35. I started this last night. I really enjoyed the second chapter. The second chapter was looking at folklore from around the world, looking at the earliest stories of vampires and where they came from, and the author Konstantinos makes the argument that because so many different cultures from so many places around the world have very, very similar tales and descriptions of vampires, that there's 2 very particular types of vampires, and those 2 types are recorded across so many different cultures. How can it then not be true if they're so similar? And these are during times where there wouldn't have been much crossover between these countries for them to be able to share tales that easily, that there must be some common thread of truth between them. I will say the writing style of this isn't my favourite. He is a bit condescending. Some of the bits I feel like were necessary to add in, like some of the sentences that are put in I feel like could be edited out. Ignoring that, I did find it interesting looking at the myths and the folklore surrounding vampires and the correlations between them. It doesn't delve really deeply into this. You are just getting a quick bird's eye view of the different folklore stories within these different cultures. The author does say that we're going to go a bit more in depth the further we go, which will be interesting, and looking into the different types of vampires, the ones that are more physical that we see in our fiction and media today, to the more incorporeal beings. So you've got ones that are actual blood drinkers, ones that are psychic vampires, like it breaks it all down. And I find the concept of that really interesting, and looking at how we have taken vampires within our media and from books and stuff, and how some of that does originate from folklore inspired tales, but not all of it. It's an interesting read, but it is one I'm taking with a grain of salt, especially with the way the writing style is so condescending, and it's very easy to manipulate things into a narrative that you like. But for me, I'm just seeing it more as looking at the folklore elements of this, because I like seeing where our stories are inspired by, and folklore is a massive part that's inspired our stories today, whether it's books or films, TV shows, etc. It's always in some ways been grounded within folklore that then just gets expanded upon as time moves. I'm intrigued. I don't know what the rest of this is really going to be. It talks about like modern day vampires and stuff. I feel like those are going to be parts where I kind of have to suspend disbelief. Chapter 2, focusing on the folklore elements, was what I was hoping to get out of this book, is looking into the different narratives of different folklore and cultures and stuff. And that was interesting, but I do wish it went deeper into that, because that's where my main interest lies. Folklore is something that I was meant to be spending this year focusing on, but I've kind of got sidetracked. But now we're getting closer to October, I really wanted to look into more like vampires, vampire stories, where our original came from. So like last week I read The Vampire by John Paul Lowry, which was the first English fiction tale of vampires, which I thought was really good. It's only a short story, but it was really good, really interesting, and you could really see the hallmarks that have influenced things like Bram Stoker's Dracula, and so on and so forth from there. So it was really interesting to read the folklore, which is then even older than obviously that tale. I'm going on a bit of a side tangent here, but it's interesting. So I will be continuing on with this week. I have also picked up The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, and this is a reread for me. I'm rereading this because I really want to continue on and finish this trilogy by the end of the year. I have all 3 books, and so I'm desperate to actually do it. I've already, as I said, read this one, but I haven't read the second or third one, and I've decided instead of going straight into the second book, I would do a reread. There is a lot going on in this book. I'm reading this as Kindle, so I can read it at work, on my lunch breaks, and so now I'm up to chapter 5, page 106. I started it this morning while I was on my lunch break at work. I'm loving getting back into this world. So it's a fantasy book that has Italian inspiration, I believe, for the setting. It's really beautiful. If I had to say, I would guess like Venice, because you've got like the canals and everything. Absolutely stunning. We've got beautiful descriptions of clothing and masks, which is like I really like. We have almost like a tarot magic system. There's a lot of things to do with nightmare magic in this as well. I'm really enjoying it. Now, the first 4 chapters are just introducing us to our main character, who is called Ren. She is a con artist, and she is trying to worm her way into the elite society so that she can then provide for her and her sister. Part of this is her putting on these different disguises, and through these different disguises you're meeting other people. You do get multiple perspectives in this book, which I really like, because you then get to see different elements of the story and different political happenings. So this is like a political fantasy with magical elements. You also have like a rogue character in here. There's a lot going on, but it's so good. I really enjoy it. Love the setting. Highly recommend this. Actually, it's a really good series, and I don't see many people talking about it, but it's so good. There's so many elements to this book that I think is really well done. So yeah, I'm going to be rereading this week. I'm at work for the next 4 days, so I'm going to be reading this while I'm at work on my lunch breaks and pairing it with this one, and then I have a couple of other books to read for other videos and stuff, so we'll see what we end up getting done. But my main goal this week is actually these 2 books, but we'll see if we stick to that. I normally have a terrible thing of not being able to stick to my plans, but this is what I'd like to get done this week. 2 completely different reads to pair together, but I am loving it. It is so good, as in I am loving Mask of Mirrors. I just find this one interesting. Whether I continue to find it interesting or whether it then starts to lose me, I don't know. Anyway, this has been a long intro. I hope you're all doing well. Let me know what you've been up to, what you've been reading, all the usual things. But for now, I've got quite a bit I need to get on and do, so I'm going to get on with that, and I will catch up with you probably in a couple of days. Yeah, let's go from there. Afternoon. It has been a hot couple of days. I honestly thought we were going into autumn, hence the autumn nails, but no. England's had another idea and gone, we're gonna go back to summer, and it's hot. It's a hot summer, so yeah. So we're gonna make this update as quick as possible, because all I want to do is go have a shower. Like that is it. It is hot and horrible, and yeah. Anyway, the last couple of days have been good. I met up with my partner yesterday, went out for a nice little meal, tried somewhere more local. That was rather good. Did I film any of it? No, I was just enjoying the moment. But let's get on with the books that I'm reading, because we're in the middle of 3. So, as we know, started The Vampires, and I've only actually read a tiny little bit more. I'm now on page 56, chapter 3, and so far this chapter is focusing on immortal blood drinkers, taking a look into the folklore behind them, but the author is looking at the realistic things that could actually have contributed to it, making it so that immortal blood drinkers are probably the least likely possible vampire to exist, and looks at the details that were given of the vampire and how they looked, and pairs it with medical knowledge of today. Again, all of this is very light, nothing goes in depth, and it's a bit frustrating, that condescending writing style, and I just feel like it could have gone deeper into it. So it's not going to be a new favourite book, it's not going to be a book I recommend to people, so I'm reading this every so often before I go to bed, just a couple pages. I have been continuing on with The Mask of Mirrors. I haven't made loads of progress. Okay, I've made good progress, but not as much as I would have hoped. I'm now up to chapter 12, page 306, so about halfway through. Really enjoying this reread. I am so excited to continue on with the series and so pleased I've done a reread because there is so much that goes on. There are so many little politics and things and lots of different character perspectives, and while I'm reading it, it's easy to follow, but I definitely needed the refresher and I'm so pleased that I'm doing it. It is so good, and I have actually started reading this of an evening as well, so that's my plan today, is finish off editing last week's vlog, which will be out last week already by the time you see this, but finish editing that, get that ready to be uploaded, and then just chill out and read this book. That is, and ciao, obviously, but that's the plans for today. Like, that's all I want to do. I'm enjoying it so much. Every time I put it down, I'm thinking about it. It is so good. Before I had decided that that's what I was going to do and I was just going to focus on reading that book because I'm enjoying the reread so much, I did actually start The Wolf and the Woodsman, and I started this, what day are we on? We're on Wednesday, so I started it Monday evening. Just a few pages. Just a couple pages. I'm up to page 14, and I had planned that what I was going to do is, as we know, on my breaks at work, read this. Then, of an evening time, split my time between these two books. I thought it would be really nice. And I do like this. I think it's an interesting start. I'm liking the setting already, except I now just want to focus on reading this. So this has gone on the back burner. I may get to it later this week. I may wait until next week, later in the month. But for now, I'm going to put it down just because I want to focus on my reread. But like I said, I am enjoying this. For the first 14 pages, I am interested. We do actually have a pronunciation guide at the back of the book, which I think is really useful. Definitely for me, I need that help with the pronunciations. But it does it all in alphabetical order, which I really like. We're following our main character, and she lives, from what I can gather, in this like tribe in the forest. They are preparing for the day that the woodsmen come to claim a wolf, which is one of their women. Each woman seems to have different abilities that can either help them heal, they're a seer, they can have elements over fire. Each person has one, and as a result they have a wolf pelt that they have over them that to show their significance. Our main character doesn't have any powers at all, and right at where I finished reading this, where I got to, the woodsmen are just about to arrive, and she is now gone from being the safest person possible, because they always want a girl with gifts, to now being the sacrifice. And I'm really liking it. Like I said, the setting's really well done. I like the writing style. I'm really intrigued to carry on with this. I just really want to finish reading this. Like, that's all I want to do. So I think I'm just going to dedicate the next couple of days to finishing this book. Hopefully I'll get to it at the end of this week, but I also don't want to rush read it because I think it's going to be such a good, dark, atmospheric book. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all goes. I'm really intrigued with the magic system, but I also want to give it the time it needs. And I do feel like having 2 magic systems on the go at the minute, after I've done early shifts, it's not the one. Then I am off. Oh my gosh. From Friday, I am off for 2 weeks and I'm so excited. The first 5 days of it is just busy. Busy, getting loads of editing and stuff done, but I am also planning to do a couple of days of reading because I've got so many big books to get through. I haven't even started the Discord monthly book club book yet, although it seems really promising. Lots of people are saying in the chat that they're really enjoying it, so I do want to get on and read that. I have so much to organise and do. I just want to read Mask of Mirrors, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go have a shower, edit. I need to edit first. And then once I've edited, we're going to eat and read this, and that is all we're going to do this evening. That's the plan. Then one more day of work, and then we're off. And it's going to be so good. Okay, let's go do that. Yeah, see what the rest of the week brings. I would really like to fit this in this week as well. I think it would be good. Or start the Discord book club pick. That's probably the smarter option, is to start that. Maybe we'll take this on holiday. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I need to stop rambling, actually, and go have that shower. That's what I need to do. officially off work for 2 weeks, which sounds so good. So what's going to happen with this vlog? I am actually extending it by a couple of days into the start of next week, because from next week, about the middle of next week, I am on holiday. So I want to do a separate video for that. So this vlog is going to go a little bit longer than normal, and then the next vlog is going to go and be holiday, which is going to be great. So let's get into what that means reading wise. But before we do that, we have a package, which I didn't order because this is not from Waterstones. So I'm very intrigued to see what this is. Okay, so it's a book. We have a note. Trying to get the note first. Okay, it's from Naomi. Thank you, Naomi. I loved this, but I've not read Name of the Wind. You'll either love it or hate it. Hopefully you'll like it. I have a feeling what that could be. So I love Name of the Wind. It is one of my favourite books. I adored it. We're never going to get that third book, but I loved it. And there is a book that's been going around, I think it was released last year, that was very much for people who liked Name of the Wind, but it's been mixed reception. Some people either love it or some people don't, because it's too similar to Name of the Wind. So I think it could be that book, but I could also be wrong. So let's see. It is, oh my god, it is. Ah, look how gorgeous. So this is the first binding by R.R. Verdi, and yeah, this is the book that is very much recommended for people who liked Name of the Wind, but as I said, has mixed reception because some people like it's too similar, you've just followed the exact same story. I really wanted to get this when it was in hardback, but it was such a big book and way too heavy that I knew I would never actually read it in hardback. So I was waiting till it came out in paperback, but Naomi beat me to the punch, as always. Thank you so much, Naomi. I'm really pleased that Naomi liked this one, so I have high hope. Really, really intrigued. How big is this book? 817 pages. It doesn't even look that big. Like, I have 600-page books that look bigger than this. That is some Bible thin paper and page-to-page text. Look at this. I am so excited today. Okay, so let's read the synopsis. So it says, all legends are born of truths, and just as much as lies. These are mine. Judge me for what you will, but you will hear my story first. I buried the village of Empire under a mountain of ice and snow. Then I killed their god. I've stolen old magics and been cursed for it. I've started a war with those that walked before mankind and lost the princess I loved and wanted to save. I've called lightning and bound fire. I am legend and I am a monster. My name is Ari. And this is the story of how I let loose the first evil. I'm really excited. So I do believe this is done in the exact same format of A Name of the Wind, where we have the main protagonist telling his story to, well, in The Name of the Wind it was a storyteller. Whether this is just telling the story directly to us rather than someone that's actually writing it down, I don't know. The Name of the Wind is each book is a day of our main protagonist telling his story. And it's such a good book, so I'm very excited. And because this is a standalone, I'm really intrigued to see how this is going to go. And yeah, honestly, it's been such a long time since I've read Name of the Wind. I mean, I loved it. It's one of my favourites, all-time favourite, that I think I won't mind that this is similar. We'll see. I definitely want to read this soon. Oh, maybe I should put this in my winter TBR. A big 800-page book with blankets and hot cups of tea. Sounds like the perfect thing. So yeah, maybe we'll do that. I'm very intrigued. Thank you so much, Naomi. This is lovely. I'm so excited to get to this one. So I finished The Mask of Mirrors. I finished this last night. Loved my reread of this. It was so good. Look how floppy. I don't know if that's just because I've read it a couple of times now, but it is gorgeous flop. Yeah, loved this. Really want to move on to the next book, and the plan is to have the second book, read that in October, and then the third book in November. I'm also going to be changing up the way I do my TBR games for the rest of this year. Only for the last 3 months, but we'll go into that when my TBR video actually comes up. I'm just thinking about it now because I'm going to be filming my October TBR video in the next couple of days because, again, I'm on holiday. I need to get everything sorted before I go. What was I saying? Finished this, absolutely loved it. It's got a really explosive ending. I really like the reveals. I really like the way everything builds up. It ties in Ren's backstory and also opens up the avenues of where this story is going to go from. So Ren started out on the streets as like a little finger is what they're called, where they go off and they're stealing things for their knot leader. She portrays them That's what she does at the very start of this book, is she portrays her not leader. So she is running away from this past. She's also trying to con her way into elite society, as I mentioned. And I really like the fact that this first book kind of wraps up that initial betrayal and does it really well as opening up all these avenues for where the book and the series is going to expand. I'm really excited to get into the second book. The reread was fantastic. I love the religion system in here. It ties into the magic systems. It is so good. If you want a fantasy book that uses tarot cards and nightmares and has dream magic involved, then this is a good one for it, especially if you do like political fantasy as well. It's so good. It's got a mixture of lots of things that I really like the con artist side of things as well. So it just is a whole mesh of different things that I really like, and I think it worked well. My only complaint, which is still valid from the first time I read this book, is there is a particular scene where Ren is having to do this task and she has to distract a guard, but you don't see how she distracts them, and there's no like break to show that time's passed or anything. It's literally one sentence, I have a plan. Next sentence, well, that went well. It's like, well, what happened there? I feel like there was a whole paragraph that you could have just put in and just explained what happened. So that's the only thing that I find a bit frustrating, is occasionally you get moments like that, but they're really few and far between, and on the reread I really only noticed it with that one particular scene, which was the bit that annoyed me the most when I first read it. I think it's a really good book series though. Book series? I don't know, I haven't read the rest of the series, but I really enjoyed this book. I think it's a really good introduction into the world, into the magic, into the characters. Really enjoyed this, really pleased that I just decided to knuckle down and focus on it, because I just feel so good. And then the next book that I have been reading, I read a little bit more, so I'm now up to chapter 4, page 61. It's all the things that I've been saying about the condescending writing style, and the author can't seem to make up their mind whether they're believing in this or not. They have a bit right at the very end that goes occult reasons behind this all, which just doesn't seem believable in any way. So I don't know. I mean, like I say, I'm seeing this with a pinch of salt and I'm enjoying it for the actual folklore side of things. We'll see how it goes from there. I am intrigued by chapter 4 though, because chapter 4 is Mortal Blood Drinkers of the Past, and the first name in this sentence is Dracula, so I feel like that's going to be interesting. But yeah, so I will be carrying on with this week. I want to finish it before I go on holiday, but I do have a couple of days before I go away that I just want to catch up with some of the book club picks. So one of the book club picks I'm actually just going to take on holiday. I'm going to let the Discord know that I haven't started it, that I will probably just read it while I'm on holiday and just finish it while I'm there. But I'm thinking for the next couple of days to focus on Pillars of the Earth, because I do need to read the 2 chapters for this week. So I'm on chapter 9 and I need to read up to chapter 11 for this week. But then while I'm on holiday, I'm meant to be reading up to chapter 13, which I'm going to try and do before I go away so that this chunk of pages is done. So I need to read the next 270 pages, so I might focus on that over the next couple of days. I'm really enjoying this. I've spoken about it quite a few times. This is a 2-month-long buddy read. This is the last month that we're going to be finishing it all up in, and we're doing it as 2 chapters a week. The chapters are really long. They are broken up into little parts, so you'll have chapter 1 part 1, chapter 1 part 2. Actually, now that I remember, it's actually very similar to Mask of Mirrors as well, where you have chapter 15 and then it's broken down into different sections which are really quick to read, and so you'll have it all broken up, and normally that means there's going to be a change of perspective going on, or maybe like a day's past or something. I like that in books, to be honest, because I think it makes it so much more readable. Either short chapters, or if you've got longer chapters, break them down into natural breaks for the reader. I think it works really well. So yeah, so I think this is what I'm going to do for the next couple of days, is actually focus on this. I'm really enjoying this book. It is so good. It is very, very dark though, so check your trigger warnings. The one that I've been most shocked by is the sexual assault one, and that's happened a couple times, and it's quite graphic, really unpleasant. Like, it's meant to be. The character that you're following for that perspective is the most unlikable, horrible person ever, and you hate being inside their head, but it does work for the book. I think it shows it's really well written, that the author's able to really make you feel for these different characters. Each character does feel different. Each character gets you having different emotional reactions to them. It's just this This particular character is despicable and I hate being inside his head. But it does work for the story. I really am enjoying this. We do follow lots of different characters, but it all flows really well. All the characters are interconnected with one another and you spend quite a bit of time with each character. It's not like you're jumping around, oh, a little bit here, a little bit there. If you're being introduced to a character, you spend a good chunk of time with them before it moves on, and I like that because you really get a feel for who they are. This is all focused around a cathedral that is being built and the different politics to do with people grabbing for power and money, to do with religion and just the day-to-day stuff that's going on. It is so good. It is so richly written. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. You know what, I've just convinced myself. That's what I'm gonna do. I was umming and ahhing because I'm like, oh, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should read the other. No, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna save Wolf and the Woodsman for when I come back off holiday, and I will read Pillars of the Earth for the next couple of days, read the chunks that I need to, get myself ahead for next week so that's all done, and also read Vampires. So those are the two books that we're going to be reading. That's where we're at. Bit of a longer update, but you needed to, I needed to let you know what was happening because it's just what I do. Anyway, right, I'm gonna get on and do things. I want to quickly pop across to the shops before it gets really hot. We're having a massive like heat wave in England at the minute. It is so freaking hot, so I want to run over to the shop before it gets too hot this afternoon, and then I want to carry on editing. I've already edited one video this morning, so that's what I'm going to be using. I've got a couple days before I actually go away, so when I catch up on the reads I want to edit a few videos so that when I'm on holiday I don't have to worry about anything. That's the plan. So it's a busy couple of days, but we're going to get it done. It's going to be great. I also have an open air cinema that I'm going to later with my family, which is going to be really nice. I'm meeting my partner tomorrow and he's booked like this light show thing. So there's still lots of things going on alongside the editing and the reading and everything, but I think it's going to be good. So I'm going to stop talking and actually get on and do those things, and I will catch up with you very, very soon. Good productive day. So I managed to get 2 videos edited and uploaded, which is perfect. I've just got a couple more that I want to do, but that's going to be tomorrow. I am rather warm. It's supposed to be so hot today, so we've gone for as light a summery clothes as possible because it's so hot and I actually have to go out in that heat when it's the hottest point of the day, because we didn't think that far ahead when we planned the day for myself and my partner. But never mind, it's fine. The open air cinema was really nice because it was such a warm day yesterday. It was actually quite nice to have it feeling a little bit cool at the evening time. It was really good, really fun. So yeah, really pleased that I've been to one of those. I haven't been to one before, so that was a really fun experience, and I think when you've got good weather, it's a good time. So I've read 2 chapters of Pillars of the Earth, so I'm now up to chapter 11, and it's fantastic. It is so good. So like I said, I do plan on reading the next chunk as well, although that will probably be tomorrow because busy today. It's just so good. Like, everything goes wrong all the time. Like, we were getting to a point where our characters were having this like good spot, like they were stable, everyone seemed to be doing pretty well, and I mean, apart from couple characters, but you don't like those, so that's okay. And then everything's gone wrong. Like, at the end of this, it's just wow. Like, wow. Can't believe it. I have a couple of characters in here that are my absolute favourites. So Jack is one of them. Jack is someone that you meet at the end of chapter 1 and start getting more of his perspective, I think, from about chapter 3 onwards. I really like him as a person. I like the way he looks at things. I like the way he's so inquisitive and smart and yet questions a lot of things. Like, I really like it. Elena is another one that I really like. Her story is really heartbreaking and I really enjoyed seeing her development and growth, although with the way this left off, I don't know, it's now looking like it's going to be really bad and I don't want that for her. Like, ugh, she's been through so much already. And even the other characters in this, like you've got Philip, our prior, he is quite a cunning person. You've seen that develop as things go on, which is really interesting, and he's the one that you get a lot of the religious talk about, and you see how the Bible can be interpreted in so many different ways. Like, it's just another piece of literature and everyone takes different things from book. Two people can read the exact same book and have two very different reactions to it, and it's exactly the same as the Bible. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. It's really interesting and I like seeing his parts about that, and then him learning to play the game a little bit, as much as he likes to be like, well, God will help me if this is the way it's meant to be, and if it's not, it's not this, but he's still going to do the cunning things to make it more likely. So it's like interesting. I like the way he justifies all of that. And then we have a perspective from Tom, who's the very first perspective that you get in this book, and he's again another like interesting character. He's a very stable, grounded person. He is also the mason. He wants to build this cathedral. There's so many different things that are going on in this book, and you feel different things for each character, and of course the character that I detest. And that's just proved even more at the end of this chapter. It was... I mean, I should have guessed it. I should have guessed it, realising, well, they can't all be in a really good spot because we've still got a good chunk of this book to go. Something's going to go wrong. But you know when you're just holding out hope that things aren't going to go wrong and that your characters are going to get a nice little break? That's what I was hoping for. And it didn't happen, but I really want to know what's going to happen next. So it does work well. So I'm now up to part 4, and I've said it every time, but I really like how these parts are broken up with these illustrations, all to do with the cathedral that's being built. It's so good. I really am enjoying this book. Now, this book is a part of a series. There's a prequel to this book. There is also books after this. I don't know if I'm going to read those. I might try them eventually, but I have also been told that you can just read this as a standalone. I am so intrigued. I really like this. It is so good. And then a book that I'm not enjoying as much. So I did read chapter 4 of The Vampires, and we're now up to Mortal Blood Drinkers of the Present Day, which is chapter 5. It's okay. I think, again, my complaint on this is that chapter 4 would have been a really interesting chapter for me because it was looking at who Bram Stoker based Dracula on, was known as Vlad the Impaler, and the fact that he was reported to have drunk his enemy's blood, and that's where I kind of got the idea and inspiration of who that was going to be. Except it barely goes into it. Like, you get a page and a half, and then it moves on to the Countess, which if you've read... I can't get the book up because it's underneath this pile of stuff, but if you've read the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Kara Maniscalco, one of my favourites, the first 2 books in particular are really good, but one of the books in that series, the Countess, is kind of mentioned, and I found that interesting because I haven't read much around the Countess, so it was nice seeing a little bit more, but again, you don't get much detail, and that's the thing that was frustrating. So chapter 4, you looked at 4 different mortal blood drinkers of the past, but you really don't get much into it, and it is starting to get really frustrating. I don't know what I feel about this, but like, it's one of those things, like, am I going to keep it? Yes, because I just want it as part of my vampire book collection. Do I think this is a good book? No. Would I recommend it? No. There are so many other things that you could read to get more information. You could just, even just doing a search on vampiric folklore, and then that would show you other books that's going to dive into it more deeper for you. And that's definitely what I would do, because, I mean, like I say, I'm interested in it because I love seeing the things that have inspired our books and literature to this day. Like, I love that. But this book is just brushing the surface and then being so condescending about it. And I'm like, you have nothing to be condescending about. You're not even going in depth into these topics. Like, there is nothing here that you're saying that somebody couldn't just research online. So why? It's not one that I'm enjoying. Like, I could happily DNF this book, but I also don't want to, because I had a lot of DNFs last month. Like, that was 3 DNFs last month. That was a lot. And like I say, I am kind of interested to see where the author's going with this. I mean, I went into this expecting like a little bit of a laugh, a little bit interesting. Then chapter 2 hooked me, as I've mentioned, because I liked the look into folklore, and it was only like lightly done because it's just given a brief overview of around the world. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe the rest of the book will go in depth, but it's just stayed that way. Like, we just told barest, like the minimum. It's anyway. Right, I've spoken about this book a lot, and I keep talking about it, but I think it's because I'm frustrated with it, because it's like, I don't like your writing style, and you're not going in depth to anything, so what was the real point of this? Like, fair enough, if you're using it as a starting guide, and you're like, here, this is a start, this is an overview, and here's a list of books where you could then go deeper into it, and this is just like an intro, cool. But it's not done that way, so, yeah. Anyway. Beside the point. The point is, I actually need to get ready. I need to pack my bag, get my stuff sorted, and brave this heat, which I am not looking forward to. But I have my hair all up, so hopefully that will cool me down a little bit more. Today's meant to be the hottest day so far this week, and it's already been a bit unbearable, so... Anyway, I need to stop whining. Like, I think, to be quite honest, I should have ended with talking about Pillars of the Earth. This is such a good book. And then whenever I talk about this one, I'm always like so annoyed. And maybe I should contemplate actually DNFing the vampires, the occult truth. I'm really not enjoying this. Do I bother finishing it? No, you know what? If a book is making me this annoyed, it's clearly a sign that I just shouldn't reread it. Like, I don't want to be annoyed when I'm reading a book. And that's what's happening with this. Like, it got to the point where I was reading this yesterday with my lunch, and I just kept rolling my eyes because no. So actually, that's a good point. You know what? We're gonna put this down. I'm getting too annoyed with it. It's clearly not the one. Let me know if you have any vampire books that look into the folklore of side of things. Although this book is making me want to pick up The Historian again, which is a book that I soft DNF'd a couple months ago because I was finding it really slow, but I liked the way that was looking into the history of vampires, Dracula, the things around it. It was really good. It's a fiction book, but it was really interesting, and that is making me want to read The Historian again because I just think it's better. Maybe we'll do that. I don't know. Anyway, I need to stop talking. I need to stop rambling at you. I need to actually get ready, but I keep procrastinating it because I really don't want to go out in that heat. Oh, I'm dreading it. I'm gonna just be like a little melted puddle the next time you see me. Anyway, let's go. Morning. It is now Tuesday and we're going to be wrapping up this vlog, and I've read quite a decent amount of Pillars of the Earth. I'm really pleased with this. So I'm now up to, okay, I have to admit I did carry on a little bit past where I was meant to stop. So I was meant to stop at chapter 13 for this week's reading. So as we know, I read 2 chapters for last week's reading, and then I also read the 2 chapters for this week's reading because obviously I'm on holiday, so I won't be able to bring it with me. But I was so enraptured with it that I actually read chapter 13 part 1, so now I'm up to chapter 13 part 2. I haven't got massively far into it. For the rest of the chapters that I'm meant to read next week, I still need to read another 100 pages, so you know, only a few pages over. It's just so good. I'm really enjoying it. I'm now up to page 799. We are nearing the end. It is so good. This is definitely going to end up being one of my favourite books of the year. It's brilliant. I know I've talked about it a lot and I've been singing its praises a lot because of how much I enjoy it. I really enjoyed the last section actually, so I think it was just chapter 12 where we actually took a little bit of a side quest from Knightsbridge away from the cathedral and everything that's been going on with that. There's been lots of highs and lows. It's been an adventure, but we took a little bit of a detour away and it was really nice, and we were following my two favourite main characters and I loved it because it was just about them. And it was so good. It was so well done. I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying the story. I'm also really intrigued to see where it's going to go from now, because I think things again are on the up, which is really nice. But with the way this book's been, I know we're going to hit a low at some point, so it's going to happen. But this was so good. I'm really enjoying it. I know lots of you have been commenting about saying how you really want to read this, but you're intimidated. Don't be. It is so good. And even if you take your time reading it, that's absolutely fine. Like, you don't need to rush read every single book. You don't need to rush read any books, let's get that straight. But it's just so good. It is so well done. I only have good things to say about this book. I am so pleased that we did this buddy read for it, so it actually got me to read it. Otherwise, this was going to be sat on my shelves for years. It's one of those things, the realisation of I've had this sat on my shelves for probably a year now, close to. Maybe not quite as much as a year, maybe like 6, oh no, maybe a year. Anyway, I've had this out on my shelves for a while, and it's one of those things where it's like, I can't believe that it's been sat there just waiting for me to read, and it's such a good book. And if it wasn't for the buddy read, it would have just been sat there longer and I would never have been able to experience this. I love this book so much. It is so good. So definitely a favourite of this year, potentially a favourite of all time. That's also a video that I'm planning to try and put together as like my top 10 books of all time. I've done my favourite fantasy books video, I've done a cozy mysteries video, which definitely are very good. We've got a dark academia video coming up. We've got lots of things, but now I'm thinking about, well, what are my favourite books in general? And this is a strong contender for it. And it's weird because most of my favourite books, they're chunky books. They're not small books. Anyway, that's something that I'm thinking about. You'll have to let me know if you'd be interested in that. It probably wouldn't be until like maybe next year, maybe at the start of next year. We'll see. I'm planning next year's videos. We're getting there. I'm an organised person. I love it. This was fantastic. Highly recommend reading, and I will be continuing on with this, but not for a good week or so while I'm on holiday. But I do plan on getting this finished by the end of the month. But let's do a quick recap of the week's reading. So mainly, I focused on reading Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. This was my reread, and I adored it. It was so good. I'm so happy that I've reread this book and I'm ready and prepped to go into the second book, which I will be reading in October. Probably the first week of October, because obviously towards the end of October is definitely where it starts getting more spooky reads. So I might get this one, the second book in the series, done the first week of October, and then after that book I can just focus on all the creepy spooky reads. I filmed my October TBR yesterday and oh my god, is that thing ridiculous. It is never gonna happen, absolutely never. But I had so much fun filming it. I loved this. It's so fantastic. I mean, all the things that I've already said about it, to be fair. This week's reading's been really good because I've read a good 270, actually almost 300 pages of this book, and then 630 pages of Mask of Mirrors. Fantastic, really good. And then alongside those two books, I did have my DNF, which is Vampires: The Occult Truth. It's not going anywhere. It's going to stay on my shelves as part of my vampire book collection. However, I really do not like the writing style in this. It's so condescending. And as much as I was going into this for a laugh, being like, oh, it's going to be really funny to see why people think vampires exist, or in the more accurate terminology, it's not vampires as we know it from like Dracula. Instead, it's mortal people who drink blood and the reasons why they do it in this day and age. That's what this is actually about. But the first half of this is focusing on things from the past and folklore, which I really wanted to love, but it just doesn't delve deep enough for me to actually be gripped by this, which is disappointing. The next part was actually going to be like letters from present day people that drink blood and the reasons for doing so. So I feel like it'll be kind of interesting, but I'm just skeptical about it all, so I don't see the point. The point that I wanted from this book, the folklore side of things, didn't deliver. So DNF. But there we are, those are the three books. I did also start Wolf and the Woodsman, but considering I only did 14 pages, doesn't really count. That will be read at some point this month. This was a good reading time. I loved my read of Mask of Mirrors and I'm enjoying Pillars of the Earth so much. So overall this week has been an absolute win. So I think we're going to leave it there for this week. So let me know if you've read Mask of Mirrors, if you would be interested in this trilogy or Pillars of the Earth, but I keep asking you about that one and lots of you do comment about either you've read it and loved it or you want to read it. So let's put a mask in the comments below if you've made it this far, and thank you for watching. So if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it that thumbs up, subscribe and comment. Those 3 things really help this channel grow. My social media links and anyone I've mentioned will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the very next video.